Baseball in the Boroughs is brought to you by Verizon. The Mets are borough hopping to the Bronx for the final two-game Subway Series, and that goes down on Tuesday and Wednesday. So you know I had to get Yankees beat writer for the Post, Greg Joyce, on to talk all things Yanks heading into a crucial series for both of these squads. I guess I'm kind of embellishing a little bit, Greg, when I say crucial series. What's up, my man? He's live from Yankee Stadium right now. You ready to get this thing going, Greg?
Yeah, it should be a good one. Last series between the two teams this year, so a lot on the line here.
All right, before I even talk about the Subway Series and get your thoughts on that, the Yankees bats finally came alive in Monday's blowout win against the Rays. So you think the bats are finally back in the Bronx, or you just need to see more?
Yeah, probably need to see it for a little bit more of an extended stretch. There's definitely been some good signs, positive signs coming out of the break, but obviously, you need to see more of it. Anthony Volpe has looked much better in these 4 games out of the break than he did going into the break. He's in a brutal slump. I think it was his last 30 games or so going into the All-Star break. Looked like he was kind of really searching for it to get back to his strong start to the year, and he's gotten off in the second half much better. Austin Wells has continued to look like a pretty good bat here over the last month plus, really. He's put together some really good bats, which has gotten him into the cleanup spot. They still need to get more out of Alex Verdugo. He snapped an 0 for 20 yesterday. They feel like he's putting together better at bats, but the results haven't been there really for over a better part of a month now. So they need to get him going. Obviously, DJ LeMahieu, it's been a real struggle. He was on the bench Sunday, came back yesterday. He got a home run that just barely left the park, but his first one of the year. So they see some signs here and there, but they got to do it for a more extended stretch here. Obviously, there's a lot of the talk about how Aaron Judge and Juan Soto have really been the two guys who bring it every single day, but they need those supporting guys to deliver more consistently for them to get where they want to go.
Yeah, the consistency is going to allow this team to be able to challenge that narrative that they've only got 2 bats on that team. Like you said, Soto and Judge being those guys. Another guy who kind of had a bounce-back game, or a bounce-back outing at least, Carlos Rodon. We got Luis Hill and Garrett Cole, who's lined up for the Mets for the next 2 nights. You think there's pressure on these 2 guys to show up and have dominant outings themselves?
I don't know about pressure, but I think what you saw from them right before the break provided some hope there that's who they can be in the second half. Obviously, Cole, didn't come back until late June. Was kind of knocking up some rust early. When he faced the Mets last time around, he got hit pretty hard when he was still trying to figure out where his fastball velocity was sitting. Wasn't ready to kind of unleash the full clip yet. But now he's fully built up. He seemed settled in, had his best start yet last time out against the Orioles before the break. Coming out of the break, he had a really strong start against the Rays on Friday night. So trying to build off of that. And Luis Hill, he had a rough, I think it was 3-game stretch before the break, and then his last 2 starts before the break looked like the Luis Hill that we saw in May. So there's some encouragement there that he can get back on track. And, there's some concerns about whether the workload was catching up to him, the fatigue, obviously, as a guy who hasn't pitched a lot the last couple of years. So there were some concerns about that, but his last 2 starts before the break looks much better. So if he can build off of that tonight, that'll be big for them going to the second half, because, during this rough patch, as much as the offense has struggled to be consistent, it's really the rotation that has kind of let them down. Before Cole got back, they had the best rotation ERA in the game, and it's been pretty much close to last in the majors over the last month, really, which has played a huge part in their struggles.
Yeah, I hate to keep bringing up these struggles. And I know the players are kind of exhausted on talking about it, but this team has won 1 of their last 10 series. 7 of those were losses and 2 were splits. So would you call this a must-win series against the Mets?
I think they just need to get some momentum going here. A lot of times leading into these series that they don't care that it's, they say it doesn't mean more because it's the Mets, but I kind of tend to believe them on this one just because they could be playing the Angels, and it would be a big series for them just to be able to get some momentum. It seems like every time they take a step forward, they take 2 steps back, or even just a step back. They felt like they were getting some momentum going into the break, and then obviously that crushing loss on the Sunday before and then they come out, against the Rays and play strong on Friday, lose 2 over the weekend, and played better yesterday. So it's kind of like they need to get some momentum going, really, to fully pull themselves out of this hole that they've built. And so these are the next 2 games on the schedule, and obviously the Mets, handed them pretty good last month at Citi Field. So they could certainly, it feels like they owe the Mets a little bit, but it's also they just need to play well, regardless of who's on the schedule. So they get these 2 against the Mets and then the Red Sox this weekend. So and the Phillies after that, we're the best team in baseball right now. So it's an important stretch here leading into the deadline.
You want to play well to get your mojo back, and you want to play well because every player on that team outside of Judge and Soto is kind of getting evaluated. So do you think that the outcome of this series has any serious implications on what Brian Cashman does before the July 30th trade deadline?
I don't think so. I'd say more so this past month has really kind of exposed some holes on the roster that they need to fix. I think, in the middle of June, when they had the best record in baseball, you knew they needed some help in the bullpen, but they were getting by elsewhere. But this last month has really kind of shown, like, they could certainly use another bat, a corner infielder. Obviously, 2 would expect at least 1 reliever, maybe 2. Some high leverage guys that have swing and miss at the back end. And so we'll see how it all comes together. But I think regardless of how this series plays out, barring a big injury or anything, I think the trade deadline plans will stay status quo. They need, they're going to be buyers. It's just a matter of what kind of deals they can find. But I think this past month it has I would think it's shaped their plans more than any 2 games here will in this week leading up to the deadline.
Well, it's definitely going to be a great 2 games. Nothing like the Subway Series. Greg Joyce, thanks for taking time out of your day hopping on with us, my man.
You got it. Thanks, Brandon.